Project Voice with Dave Robinett, CEO and founder of Pound 250. Dave, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Pat.
So, I've been working with you for a long time, but I'd say the majority of the voice community, at least my listeners, would love to hear about what Pound 250 is. So if you could give us a high-level overview, what is it that Pound 250 provides to its customers?
Well, so let's start with what it is. So what it is a speed dial that already works on everybody's mobile phone. And that's possible because it's programmed into the networks of all the mobile carriers. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, US Cellular, etc.
Everybody. So that's an exclusive partnership because Pound 250, nobody else can take that domain space, right?
That's right, nobody can have Pound 250, but it's even better because for me anyway, because the mobile carriers do not provision new short dialing codes like what we've got. So in that sense, it's a exclusive thing.
So anybody in the US, and it sounds like we were talking a little before this, maybe even some other regions outside the US, all they have to do is dial Pound 250, hit the call button, and then they're talking to your service.
They're talking to our IVR platform, and at that point, everyone in the US or Canada will be prompted, hello, please say the keyword. Now, they'd only do that if they heard some advertising with that call to action. Hey, to reach us, dial Pound 250 and say Pizza Hut. Or in your case, because I set up a demo for you, you can dial Pound 250 and say dry cleaning. And you'll be talking to Pat in this case. But the basic functionality is once we recognize that spoken keyword, as I call it, the basic function is we can route a live phone call to a call center or a front desk, could be a small business front desk. And then we can optionally also offer the caller a one-time text reply. So we literally ask permission, may we send you a one-time text reply with more information. So that's anything you can put in the text reply. So we can sometimes fit up to 4 different links in there using short URLs, which make them trackable also.
And this isn't in competition with existing voice offerings. If I'm correct, you guys can actually take Pound 250 and people can take their Google Actions and Alexa skills and put that up into your service. Am I right?
Well, that's right. It's early days, but originally I had the idea, well, maybe I have to go buy 200 Echoes and create an Echo farm, right, and all attached to an inbound phone line. But I figured out there was a better way. There's an existing technology actually called web sockets, or sometimes called web hooks. And not all of the telephony platforms support it, but Nexmo is one, Nexmo being similar to Twilio. It supports WebSockets in terms of they support the development tool for WebSockets. But basically, what WebSockets does is it does a handshake with your application server or voice application server, and it creates a WebSocket, which is basically a tunnel where the audio can get streamed bidirectionally in bits and bytes, and it's getting streamed in real time. So it's not a walkie-talkie conversation where the user requests something and then the human has to wait for a response. It's bidirectional. So you might ask a question or place the first part of your restaurant order, and the server might be confirming what you said, and you could say, oh, no, I meant sour cream, not hot sauce.
And I have that happen. I'll be talking to people and I'll be showing them some of our Alexa skills or Google Actions. And as they're trying it, because voice is so new, they'll be like, no, or they'll try to correct it or they'll try to interact with it. And then they realize, oh wait, I had to say the wake word, and then they say the wake word and they interrupt it, but it sounds like yours removes that friction. And it makes it just a little bit easier to be able to do that bi-directional conversation.
Right. So that's sort of new news, because when we were here at the Alexa conference, now Project Voice, last year, I was asking everybody, can Alexa take a phone call? Can Google Assistant take a phone call? And the answer was no. Now, a young person like yourself would say, well, why would I need to ever make a phone call in my whole life, right, when I've got my smartphone? But the answer is, you may be a brand, and I don't care who you are, at least this side of Facebook or Instagram, your brand, Applebee's, will never have their app on everybody's phone. And even Starbucks, the biggest brands, their app is not on more than 5% of all the handsets out here. So therefore, that's a hurdle for any consumer you want to engage with, right? If that's your plan, that's a limited plan. It's got a ceiling on it. So why not use a technology where anybody with a mobile phone can engage with your brand with no prerequisites. I don't have to install a mobile app first. I don't have to remember your 10-digit phone number. I don't have to be using a smart speaker. I don't have to be standing in front of the kiosk. I'm using my phone that is always with me, and 100% of consumers can do it. So you're taking the ceiling of your, we talk about addressable markets, right? That's older terminology. I'm calling it accessibility. We're taking it from a ceiling of 24% of households with smart speakers up to 100%.
Everybody is.
Like instantly.
Yes. Yes. And you've created this snowball because this is a protocol of the phone numbers that's widely accepted, similar to a website URL. You can go to any computer, type in the website URL, and you go to any phone, type in that phone number, and you go to pound 250.
That's right. And actually, domain names are the perfect analogy because exactly 0 people would ever arrive at your website if they had to remember your IP address, right? So that's why we use words, because the human mind can remember words, but not random number strings.
Yeah.
Right. And and there's other barriers on a case-by-case basis. Even to use an Alexa skill, you have to know the wake word a lot of times.
Exactly.
Not always nowadays, but for niche skills, you would have to literally know the wake word or the skill activation. Whereas now we have the same issue. The consumer has to hear a call to action, which tells them what the keyword is, but oftentimes the keyword is simply the brand name. So if I'm driving home and I want to order dinner from Chipotle hands-free, I'm going to dial pound 250 and say Chipotle Mexican Grill. I didn't have to remember anything, and I'm doing it hands-free, right? I press the Bluetooth button on the steering wheel, say dial pound 250, connects to our platform. I say Chipotle Mexican Grill, and I'm placing my order with my voice. And at least after the first time when I went through the process and read my credit card number, it's stored my credit card number, so I don't have to pull that out and look at it this time. So I'm doing the whole thing hands-free. And again, so it has basically removed all the friction. If all you got to know is the brand name to engage with the brand, there's 0 friction. You can do it from any mobile phone, and once they store my payment information, I don't have to read a credit card or anything.
I love the marrying that you've done, because I have some of the customers that work with Voice First ask us, okay, well, if they end up getting frustrated during the Alexa skill experience or during the Actions on Google experience, can we route them to a true human? Can we route this? If they ask us for our phone number, could we just have it complete the call?
Yeah.
And as of right now, Alexa and Google have not opened up those capabilities for developers to be able to use. You have already had a solution to that, where you can have a conversation with the system itself.
Yes.
But then if you also want, you can route that call directly to a call center, to a person. Like you proved this with the dry cleaner. If I call pound 250 and say dry cleaner, it's going to route it straight to my phone.
Dry cleaning. But I can add that synonym.
And I didn't even realize that you had that capability to route it to my phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's very powerful, and I need to show that to more people, because that one was easy. I have no idea how I would do that number routing if I didn't know you.
Yeah.
And then it just goes straight to my phone for any call like that, and all they need to know is the keyword. I can put that in all of our direct mailing. I can put it in an Instagram story. I can make a TikTok video around it. I can put it at the end of our YouTube videos. Pound 250, dry cleaning. Easy. It's straightforward. Yeah. It's straightforward.
So a lot of people have said, well, young people don't want to talk on the phone anymore. But I think that's true in a lot of cases, but when they need to make an appointment at the doctor's office, right, or if you are talking with a marketer and you've got some follow-up questions, because I can never find my answer in anybody's FAQ. My question is always so odd that I need to talk to a human, because I can't even find it if I wanted to in the FAQs, right? So there are occasions where even young people, yes, will be willing to speak to a human being, but since we're talking about using your voice to speak to virtual assistants, then there's lots of reasons to do that, right? Because the virtual assistant is either bringing me back information, or they may be a concierge, like, hey, go make me reservations at Olive Garden. So there's lots of ways to use voice, even if you're not speaking to another human. I guess that's the point.
This is coming from a place of curiosity. My phone stopped doing calls last week. Don't know why. It's a Google Pixel. Guy at the Sprint store said that the Pixels can get buggy. So I spent an entire week only making calls with Google and Alexa. I make a lot of calls because of the business that I'm in. So I was constantly saying, hey Google, call this number. Alexa, call this number. And I was having them call. A lot of the people that listen to this podcast listen to it on Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant, either in their flash briefing on Alexa or on Google Podcast with Google. If they wanted to talk to your service via those devices that can make calls, have you tested or experimented to see if pound 250 works on those?
Well, you cannot tell Echo to dial pound 250.
Okay.
And in fact, I've learned that Siri, for some reason, this is unbelievable to me, but Siri does not know that there's a pound key and a star key on the telephone dial pad.
Isn't she smart?
She's pretty dumb. She doesn't know that that's a possibility on a telephone dial pad. Now, did you tell it to dial a specific number?
Yes, I told it. I didn't tell it a contact. I pulled it up, the contact on my phone, read it to Google, and I said, call this number.
Well, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking that the smart speakers can only dial numbers that are in your contact list. Have you ever tried dialing just a random? Okay.
You could be right that I might not have just pulled. It may have been a number already stored in my contact, but I definitely didn't say the contact name. I did explicitly read out a phone number.
Yeah. Well, so you had to know the phone number somehow, right?
Exactly.
So you had to look it up, or.
And that was why I was curious if the pound 250. Like, can I just tell Google dial pound 250? And then it's like, well, all of the speakers are engaged, and it's like instead of you were talking about that wake word. The wake word for yours is instead of saying, hey Google, talk to pound 250. It's just hey Google, call pound 250. And then when that launches, they're able to say the wake word and still talk to it.
You know, so a lot of our business is radio advertisers, and right, and we say dial pound on your mobile phone, dial pound 250. Now, some people, despite that instruction, they ask Siri to do the dialing, or they'll ask Google to do the dialing.
Yep.
And my impression is that it works some of the time on Google, and it usually does not work on Siri for the reason I mentioned. So I tried to fix that a little bit by because Google is looking for your business on the internet. So instead of using our office phone number, I used the number that accesses our platform instead. So I was trying to kind of fake out Google to, send anybody who's wanting to talk to us to our platform number instead of our office number.
Yes, how'd that work?
I don't know yet.
I
think it has helped, yeah. Now, one thing that would always work, which is my ultimate goal, is I'm going to do this someday where I'm going to set up a keyword so we can send you the pound 250 V card, meaning contact.
Yes.
So that if you want to, you can just store the pound 250 access number in your contacts. And if you do that forevermore, you will be able to tell Siri to call pound 250.
Because you saved it to contacts. And
Yeah.
that's where your question came from about have I saved it?
Right, so that's why we're working on
Interesting.
we're working on different partnerships. I mean, we have a nationwide partnership with iHeartRadio, right? Because again, our radio advertisers is our current main use case. But we've offered the total traffic and weather network, so they supply a weather and traffic service to local radio stations. But they are rolling out dial pound 250 and say traffic or total traffic nationwide. And we're basically giving it to them for free just to expand our own awareness so that lots of citizens know that, oh, there's this thing called pound 250 and you can call it and it works and you can say a keyword.
Yes, and this is the perfect opportunity. 2020, we've known each other for almost a year now. I've been able to see your platform grow. I saw billboards when I was driving down to different voice conferences. I've seen pound 250 growing. What are you guys headed towards in 2020? What would you say that you guys are working on? Is it partnerships? Is it improving the technology? Where's your head at for 2020?
Well, we'll continue to grow our direct response radio business, but what I'm focused on this year is voice ordering from restaurants. So some of them have rolled it out, right? So Domino's has been experimenting the last few years with order by voice, but you first have to have their mobile app. Right, which is a barrier again.
Good old Dom.
Right, because you only get your most loyal customers who you were going to get anyway.
To download,
right?
yeah, right.
Now Chipotle has announced they are rolling out this call us with a regular phone and you can place your order by automated voice. They've said they're rolling it out to all 2,800 stores.
Wow.
Now, I don't do that routing yet, but you can try it out by dialing pound 250 and saying Chipotle Mexican Grill. And that's going to actually route you for now just to a single store in Atlanta that has it implemented.
Whoa.
But you'll get connected and the voice will say, oh, did you know I can take your order now? So they've achieved the same thing I'm talking about. They must be using something like WebSockets to create the interface between the telephone system and their voice, intelligent voice server.
Right.
So they've done it, but they still have a problem in that the Chipotle customer still has to first go look up the 10-digit phone number of the store where they want to pick up their order. Right? Because you have to pick up your order at one of their locations, not one of 7.
So you got to look up the store and call them, and then that idea.
Right. Now, maybe you could do that, and maybe you could add it to your contact list, but that's friction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, if you have to first Google the phone number, you've defeated the purpose of voice only, hands-free.
Mm-hmm. Because I could already place the order on the Chipotle website.
Now, because even if you did a voice search using Google Assistant, you're going to get more than one listing, right? You're going to get the 4 locations nearest you, and you still haven't made a choice. And generally speaking, you're going to have to visually inspect which of those 4 do I want, which you cannot do while you're driving.
Right.
So our system, now we haven't solved all of this yet, but we will. If you say Chipotle, we're going to route the call to the one that's nearest you. And maybe we'll say, hey, do you want the one on Broadway or the one on 51st Street? All right, we may have one little level of confirmation, but you will not have to visually scan a list. Or, eventually we'll be able to say, well, which location do you want? You'll say 51st and Broadway. And we'll say, okay, connecting now. So that's what I'm focused on, because right now, when we're helping direct response advertisers, so there's a garage door company in LA. So you might hear a radio ad, dial pound 50 and say Mesa garage door. But you're only going to do that once in your life, probably. Once or twice while you're working with that particular provider. I'm trying to come up with clients and use cases where somebody would do it over and over, right? So after I successfully placed my first order with Chipotle, I'm going to keep dialing pound 250 and saying Chipotle to place an order once a week, let's say. And once I get in the hang of that, then I'll be that much more likely to do it for Applebee's and Red Lobster or DoorDash. Maybe I can get hey DoorDash, Grubhub, if you're out there, right? We can provide the interface. Nobody has to install your app.
Mm-hmm.
You just maybe you dial pound 50 and say Grubhub. We say, which restaurant do you want? You say Applebee's, right?
So you see this trend, because I think VoiceBot even did a research earlier on this year where they were saying these trends of on-demand ordering, expecting real-time delivery, as well as maybe it was voice technology as well. It's coming together in the food industry, and they were talking about how all those trends are coming together on demand. People are decreasing the amount that they're eating inside of restaurants, eating more out, eating away, so to be able to have that and to have the recurring purchase via phone. Well, you're seeing the opportunity in restaurants.
Yeah, so again, from my point of view, I want repeat users. Mm-hmm. But from the restaurant, and from the customer's point of view, at least one pain point we're solving is, well, hey, I don't have to look anything up, I don't have to install the app. But the other pain point we're solving is order ahead, right? If I have to wait till I get to the restaurant, then I gotta wait in the line, whether it's the drive-through line or the, standing, indoor standing in line. If I can dial pound 50 and order ahead, then I've saved that much time in line, right? Because I know like McDonald's and others are rolling out, voice ordering at the kiosk in the drive-through. Well, that doesn't save me, the customer, any effort, because I'd just be happy to, in fact, I'd probably prefer to be talking with a human, who's taking my order. Like it is today, right? There's usually a real human there who comes through the speaker saying, can I take your order? So all it does for McDonald's is maybe allow them to not get backed up. They can take everybody's order right now. But that doesn't do the customer any good, really. In fact, it's probably introducing frustration, because you could work out misunderstanding with the human easier than the automated rep here in the short term, right? But yeah, skipping the line is a big benefit.
Skipping the line.
And again, my use case vision is, oh, I'm driving home. I don't want to cook tonight. I just decide which place I want to order from, and I can do it with my voice hands-free while I'm driving. Again, if I have to look up a number, if I have to use their app, I cannot do that while I'm driving.
When people are trying to make the decision, I want to implement voice technology, do I use Alexa, do I use Google, do I use an IVR? If they were talking to you and asking you that question, what would your response be to them?
I would say do all of them, but again, my fundamental point is smart speaker penetration in households. If you ask Brett at VoiceBot, he'll say, last year he said 26%. There was an NPR Edison research that came out and said 24% now. So, you're always going to get
Little discrepancies.
a little, plus or minus there. But let's call it 1 out of 4 households.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me, but I think 4 out of 4 households is better than 1 out of 4 households.
With phones.
And that's a smart speaker at home. Now, if you're talking about in the automobile, well, what's the penetration of Alexa Auto? It's got to be less than 5%. It's probably less than 1% at the moment. Now, I'm sure they're going to grow. But I'm here to tell you, smart speaker penetration or Alexa Auto is never going to be probably above 70%. Now, 70, you can make a darn good business on 70%, but it's not 100. It's not 100%. If you're the advertiser, you want 100% of those customers to be able to engage with you. Yeah. So I'm not saying don't do a smart speaker skill. I'm just saying make your functionality accessible to anybody with a mobile phone. Because if you engage with them the first time, you can always migrate them to your skill or to your app.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll never do that. You will never get married if you don't ask somebody out on a date first. So use pound 50 to ask them out on a date.
Dave, it was amazing having you. If people want to follow the story of what you're doing, they want to follow the progress, they want to get in contact, how do you recommend people follow along with what you're doing?
Well, you can always dial pound 50 and say Dave Robinett, or you can say get more calls, and that'll connect you to our offices. Or the website's www.pound250.com. That's POUND250.com.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.